time again, everybody. And this time, on scripting components or whatever, we are going to go over making a custom name and title system. What this would essentially do is put a billboard GUI above your player, giving his custom name and title. And that is actually pretty much the gist of it. Except we're also going to put his level on a string of text below that. So, yes, that is what we will be doing. Alright, so I've already got my own place for building this up here. I've got Billy. I made a billboard GUI. This is exactly what it's going to look like. And I got my spawn over here, whatnot, whatnot. In Server Scripts service, I have a simple RPG script just for testing purposes. Otherwise, I would make this much more pretty and much more functional. But it works as it is. So, we've got our basic setup here. It's in serverscripts.org, serverscripts service, which is where we will also be putting our new script. So, go ahead, create that new script, and call it whatever you want. I think I'm just going to call it iTitle, because reasons. Alright, so, now that we have this, we're actually not going to start writing just yet. We're also going to need the GUI. So, I have my GUI prepared here in our friend Billy. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste the GUI in here. Okay, that is about the gist of it. Actually, we could probably put in a folder called resources, which we will put name into. Also, since we're going to need a folder inside the player to contain the custom name data, we're going to make another folder in here called iTitle, and we are going to put in 2 string values. So string value, copy, paste into. One will be name, and the other is going to be title. We could also probably put something in, we'll just leave it like that for now. Alright, so we got resources, our folder, iTitle, name, title, string values, and then we've got our billboard GUI set up here. We got 610, yada yada, pause the video, copy it down. Frame 11, that's about it for this one, completely invisible. Level and name, you can really make that how it is, but here are the sizes and positions I gave it, the colors, font, etc, etc. The name, same thing as level, but slightly sized differently. Alright, so now we've got all that. Another thing we're going to need is a module script inside iTitle, and we're going to call this titles, since it's going to hold all our titles. Now, what we're going to do is something different. Usually I would do module dot whatever whatever, but this time we're just going to do it this way. And we're going to need to start off with at least 3 titles. Actually, we don't need to, but we at least need these 2. And this is how you will put in titles. All of these will be suffixes, meaning they will come after the player's name. You can try making a more advanced system to allow prefixes, but that is out of the scope of this tutorial. I'm just going to put down 2 here. 2 titles for testing purposes. Alright, so we've got our module, we've got our titles, yada yada. We are done with the resources part. We've got this set up. This is what we're going to clone into the player. This will hold the custom name data, and this will hold which title the player has. We'll clone this billboard GUI, and we will put it into the player's head, and that'll be the gist of that. Alright, so we go back into iTitle. And first, we're going to need to start off with a function when the player enters. For this, we're actually just going to call the function setup. When a player enters, there's an event for that called game.players.playerAdded. That'll connect to the event whenever a player joins the server. We will connect to this. Actually, we don't need to do function here. We just need to put in setup. And it'll pass a player to setup, so we want to make sure we can access that player. Additionally, we're going to need access to this module script titles. So local titles equals require script.titles, and now we have our library of titles. We're also going to need the name GUI. We'll need our name GUI and iTitle as variables. Equals require. No, I didn't mean require. We need script.resources.name GUI, and we'll also need iTitle. So we will grab that as well. Script.resources.iTitle. Get primary folder. Get name GUI. And get library of titles. Okay, so we got that commented, etc., etc. Alright. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a clone of iTitle. So we could just go iTitle, since actually we could go name folder. Actually, we'll just call it folder instead of. So we'll call it local folder equals iTitle, and we'll clone it to make a copy. The parent, we were going to put that into the player, so we want to set the parent to player. That way it'll be inside the player object when they join. We are going to need defaults. You could actually set the defaults here, so I'll set the default to Rogers, and the title will be set as a default to nil. That way no title will be displayed. Alright, so we got that set up. The next part we're going to need to do is create the GUI and actually put it into the head of the player. Alright, so to create it we're going to need a new function. Well, we don't need a new function, but it makes it more convenient. So create player data. Also instantiate a data variable up here. It will hold name and title stuff, or hold needed data. Alright, so we're also going to need the player's leader stats, which is started by the RPG script under the name leader stats. So local leader stats equals player wait for child. This will pause the script until it finds this. Once it finds it, the script will continue. So we have player wait for child leader stats. Why did this suddenly get an error? End too close function at line 9. Oh right, yes, end. There we go, sorry. So now that we've got that, what we're going to do is we're going to set data equals, and leader stats will equal leader stats, which we just got here. And name will equal folder dot, and we set it to name, folder dot name dot. Yes, we'll just do folder. Oh dear. That's actually going to be pretty bad, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to be pretty bad. So we'll just do find first child name. Okay, that'll do. And title equals folder. Darn it. Find first child. Find first child title. There we go. Now let's set that up. Space it up for reasons, just to make it look a little cleaner. Alright, so now we got that. Now we need to create the GUI, and we need to pass the player and the data to it. Player data. Alright, so to do this, what we're simply going to do is we're going to make a local GUI equals name GUI clone. That'll get us our clone of the GUI. Billboard GUIs not only have a parent property, but also an adornee property, which we're going to both set to the player's head. To do this, you're going to need to get the character though. So local character equals player.character. Or rather, to get it, we're going to do repeat wait until player.character. Alright, what this is basically doing is it's going to repeat this clause here, which is wait, until player.character no longer equals nil. Basically, when you try to access something, it'll either return nil or true or false. Whichever, if it returns nil or false, then this statement will end up false, and it'll just keep repeating wait until this returns true. So now that we have the player's character, local character equals, actually we don't even need to set that. Alright, so the GUI, let's not forget the GUI. We need to change level and name. So, actually we're going to need to change this because the property name is also name. So, we need to change this to, can honestly be whatever, so I'll just call it main. GUI dot frame dot main dot text will equal data. Since we passed data to this function right here, we passed data to it. Data will want the name dot value. And the reason we didn't do dot value down here is because it would have returned it the value of those of these right off the bat. Since we're doing it like this, it returns the object. That way any change to this object will also be in here. So that's why we have to call value now. Alright, so we got the value, but we're also going to need to get the titles, which we got from the module script up here at the top. We got require script.titles, which is this, which return this whole table here. So all we need to do is get that entry in the table, which we will do like this. So we want titles for this variable, so return that table. Titles data title dot value, which will simply return title here, which will give us nil initially. So now we go GUI dot frame dot level. Since we set that to here, dot level dot text equals data, or rather we want this to be in capitals and then concatenate data leader stats dot in leader stats there will be a level dot value, and that'll set that part. Next we'll need to set the player's head, put it in the player's head actually. So to do that, what we're going to do is repeat wait until player.character, and then once it has player.character, we'll put GUI.parent equals player.character.head, and the GUI.adornee will equal player.character.head. And that actually ends the whole create thing. Now if we run a play solo session, we should see the GUI appear above our player's head. And there you have it. Rogers, level 1. Yada yada. Now if we die and whatnot, that's going to disappear and it's not coming back. Also, if any of our values change in here, the name will not change. So if I name myself Michael or whatnot, nothing happens. And if we change my title to something that actually exists, we get absolutely no changes whatsoever. I mean, even if we change leader stats, no change. It's static at the moment, but we're going to change that. Alright, so next what we're going to need to do is change events. For this, let's space this out a bit. For this, we're going to need to know when our values change. So first, we need to know when the name changes. So we will need folder. Okay, we'll just go data name dot changed connect update, or rather function in, and then update. And we'll need to pass the player data to it. GUI, player and data. But we don't have this function yet. Also, this returns our string value object in iTitle, which is this. And the reason, or rather not the reason, but what change does is whenever one of these properties is changed or modified, this event will fire. Now we need the update function. We'll need a GUI, player, and data. So what we're simply going to do is we're going to go into the GUI and change these things. Actually, we don't even need player, come to think of it. Actually, yeah, we will need. We don't even need to pass GUI to it, just player and data. So we can just get rid of this clause. Alright, so now that we have that, this will just update it entirely no matter what happens. So local GUI equals player dot character dot head find first child name GUI, and that should return the GUI for us, and then update it with new values. Alright, so we got that update function, but that only changes if the name changes. We also need to do it for title and lead in our level. So dot changed connect function update player data end. And we simply need to do the same for leader stats. Dot level dot changed connect function update player data. Actually, a way we could simplify this one is just doing leader stats. And there we have it. Alright, so we got that bit down. Let's see if it works as we expect. Now, doing this instead of running a constant loop checking to see if it changed is brilliant because it has much less lag because of much fewer processes it has to do. So go into players. Let's start by changing our leader stats. Let's put us to level 80. Booyah! It changed. So we know that works. Name. Let's give ourselves the name Michael. There we are. Let's give ourselves title 1. Oh dear. I'll add a space in front of that for it to work. Michael Destroyer. And booyah, there you have it. You have your system your name and title system working. Now, you can also set the name of the player to their player name, which is perfectly fine. Or you could create a GUI for the first time they enter the game to allow them to choose their custom name, etc., etc. However you choose to do this is completely and totally up to you. Alright, let me fix that one title. There we go. Alright, so there's one last issue we have here. Whenever the player dies or resets, that GUI is going to vanish from their head and it will not come back. So, in order to fix this issue, we need to know when the player's character has died. And to do this, what we are going to need to do is have the event when the player's character is added. So there is an event called player.characterAdded. So when the player's character gets re-added to the game, we're going to want to run a function. And it will be our create function with player and data. That should actually be all we need to do for that. I don't think there's actually any other functionality we need to mess with. I'm pretty sure we're okay. Okay, so let's test our theory. Alright, so it looks like it's running okay. Let us set our name to Michael 001. Hi, Michael the Great. Okay, so now we just want to reset our character. And usually, that would disappear when you respawn. It should not. There we go. It comes back. Booyah! We are finished. That finishes this tutorial and this system. There are a number of things you could do. Make a merchant that when you buy the title, it changes iTitle.title, changes the value to whatever, yada yada. You can do this really however you like. there is many things you could do with this. You could also have a character creation GUI that has them choose a custom name and whatnot, but anyway the dice roll, you have completed a title and name system, which you can use in all your RPG projects. And that is all for this episode. I will see you guys next time around.